Hello, dear Brian Stelter, CNN, Chief Obama, Chief Trump, and Chief Biden. Forget president, because originally still a whole bunch of evidence /S is that and how the president did not have free speech because locations, areas, and states and sciences were abridged. And everyone was blaming other things, others themselves, including presidents and chiefs. I'm not asking to deal with the debatable, and especially not with the debatable that is not debatable. But they're getting away with it because of how they've been proving things, because of how there have been subject treatments where they're leaving out proper evidence reception, proper quality of time treatments. They're using time always too fast, too slow, pretending people are trying to control words because they're covering up their roles with recorded, connected between campuses of each age and nature and locations next to them through time, how would they exploited leading up to the World Trade Center attack and since. And that is also Washington, D.C. World Trade Center, syntax-oriented, tied to our courts, tied to when you guys have experts that use phrases like the intelligence community, or when they use I'm not a police form, I swear to God under oath, not a police form, not a criminal, not a judge, and I'm obligated to delineate the delusions from the criminally foreign influence premises treatments of the fake news, which I'm obligated to demonstrate is real. But you guys are obligated not to pretend I'm making allegations and not to pretend I'm making theories when I'm talking about the actually specific acts that the intelligence community interbranch. There's only 3 branches of government. They've been fabricating and replacing actually recorded audio and video with fabricated audio and video transcripts. They've been fabricating things, falsified police reports, switching multiple ones so they could adapt when they have to into databases. This is former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and down, right next to the state capitol, Farmington Avenue and Asylum Avenue. Those streets parallel to each other, also parallel to the United States Capitol. There's a Casper family I never had anything to do with. They pretended since I was in grammar school. Now these are people involved with medical families that are also involved with a Yagman family, and with the Joshua Julian, also with Facebook, interbranch Facebook pages, and the Facebook page of a principal sex offender campus they had roles with. These are also medical families, foreign and domestic, and military involved. So they're stacking names, these 3 branches of government, and they use courts and cases, and they create instances criminally to keep them, all the programs, to keep everyone, that's why we have sick problems of all kinds of subjects, and they're never, all the conjunctions between them are never used. Those are problems that are being and having been employed by a breaching method. Why and how that that they were employed by a breaching method originally, and that is not allowed, spoken about, is proofs that and how, for example, in relationship to now, how it is through other means and needs. So there were officers forging and switching names over the last couple of months that contacted me about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. An officer who said his name was Sullivan. The police that confirmed that was one of their own. They have other police forms involved with this, so I don't know if it was a confirmation of it being one of their own. Wethersfield police, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, federal criminal co-defendants of his, proven in other cases. And in depositions, they were pretending things hadn't been proven because they've been discrediting people. Uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. Uses of the right to lie where they didn't have the right to lie, and cover-ups of that were recorded remote uses of the fact-finding investigations of the president and remote uses of Congress, originally and still recorded clear as day and night, are in demonstration of what is clear. and clearly increasingly positive or negative further to itself, a system we are clearly no longer allowed to speak for more and more, while increasingly needing to pretend other. And so that's all style increasingly need to value how that is vertical and horizontal. The sciences abridged originally and still, so they could exploit the lie progressions, so they could exploit the standing criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments, leveraged against each individual of each age of correlation natures, discernible through the for all that is capable by the protraction of the short words of correlation, which uses the identity of volume that is subject/s, doesn't leave out finite details. It doesn't leave out active, distinctly, non-distinctly, and progressive values. Like, what's the progressive value of people stacking in New York City? A breaching method knew that what it was for itself. That force that was entrenched here since before our founding parents, with slavery in the North and in the South, and evolved with where and how George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched in this town, Wethersfield, Connecticut, between New York and Boston. He had to leave slavery in the North and the South sickly distinctly, where he had to meet with the French general to secure help to win the Revolutionary War in Wethersfield, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. And so that's left out every time they bring up slavery. And that's used also to measure the fake sides, arrays of opinions of people that like each other or not. With that, a fake difference. There was a predicate acts delivery system method, if you will. There was a breaching method, not a lawyer. Lawyer, the bar itself is recorded originally still delusions wrought, involved with methods, like pretending people made conspiracy theories to them, where you try to report, you try to have mandated law where there are the child offenders problems. People pretend they didn't. They say, "Oh, there was rape threats." There were other natures of sexual, medical, and judicial and interbranch families that, when they were kids, they created instances where a whole bunch of ways that they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they were involved with groups in themselves with criminally foreign influence fact treatments and with their instances creations. But it's also tied to how they're with programs, with kids, and with the interbranch. And then they pretend, well, I didn't say that. I want to go by what they say. Okay, well, then pick one name and sequence. See, they won't go. They won't put anything in writing because they've been creating instances, because they've been kept needing to hide how they are a discorrelation by integrity. But forget about it. Well, there was justice racketeering as clear as day, as night. And night together are clear again. There is justice racketeering. Now there are people from Sandy Hook, Newtown. Also, a whole bunch of people at the three ends of the Borough Turnpike, through time, with timed instances creation, and then of uses of that, with the people on and off campuses involved with predicate acts, relevant to the observation of the predicate acts delivery system method. These are also people with remote uses of black and white leaderships originally and still. Then they pretend that's personal, because that's how they are victim predators backed into this gangs, in collusion with the gangs. And with the people that are undercover with that. And hundreds of nations at once, like each other or not. Their uses of subjects treatments, of title treatments, of statutes, that are criminally foreign influence and delusions wrought here and there. That is in relationship to what is manifest. That is leveraged, blamed out, causing negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal and seditious natures, of positive treatments and negative treatments too, in collusion. There was an identity of negative value nature progression that was made self-valued by that breaching method that put slavery against everyone, and then sickly distinctly made it worse against people if they're black over here, and then sickly distinctly all parts of over here, sickly distinctly in the other countries that it came through that put it here, to lock everyone into a breaching method. The time keeps going on. We're a value/value progression for a native system that they're exploiting, because they're exploiting self-valued roles with tactically, criminally re-engineered ancient republic, ancient science's method that goes by the identity that inventions work or not in relationship to it. They are further positive or not in relationship to it. And the science of that is using truth in correlation nature, actually properly using scientific method. It is the observation of its identity of volume as value as nature/nature as value, invisible but still discernible. Also because its identity of relationship to itself is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously increasingly value with that, increasingly value only. And the value of that is only increasing. It sounds complicated, it's not complicated. It's the value of sequence true, the order of the finite true, the order of what is active true, the order of simultaneously, the order of progressive value true, simultaneously. We're making fact treatments, opinions about what led up to the creation of people stacking in New York City, what led up to people pretending to be America of integrity, freedom anyway, pretending to be about Marbury versus Madison, Madison properly. No one was capable to it. No one, this method knew that what kept them, everyone's self-valued roles, not being capable of it. They were blaming other things, others themselves, for when they hear other people's or when they think their own takes on American history. So we don't have to know the most. You have to know those simple things. But so we have the people who use the most. You know, they have where they're trying to see who's doing this student and stuff like, they're trying to measure students and stuff like that. This method knew that we can be unequally on and off campuses. You know, those people measuring the students have kids too. Plus their time's manipulated by intercampuses and intra-campuses, also homeschooled, where they have complete possession of each age of correlation nature, where it knew, that breaching method knew that people would have to blame other things, others themselves, or what it would increasingly be the cause of. So we have a nature problem, not an environment problem. We have nature's negative identity of negative value nature relationship to itself being demonstrated to us. Its relationship to the environment is positive or negative in relationship to its identity of relationship to itself. And pantheism was most probably revealed by the ancients to teach this. And that was where and how pantheism is functional to the Republic. And vice versa. This is true conversely. And by what is more finite and greater than that, which revealed the Republic before scientists became criminally foreign influenced, individually grouped together the countries, the identities of countries. And increasingly the locations, areas, and states would force them to pretend other. Because there is no voice of the individual. No matter how powerful a leader gets, they will have to entertain those games that are inclusion against them, because they are already making lies about us in cases and interbranch. And they are criminally foreign influence readings of statutes, and the proofs of it are outside of courts, where they won't follow mandated law, where they use wire crime acts and methods. Methods like creating instances, where they use the right to lie where they don't. So these are also people with the principal child offenders campus that are a whole bunch of people tied to Sandy Hook, Newtown, and to names associated with that, regardless of victims or whatever. These are people I only know their names through others, like a Fred Grisey, my town's police chief, and his daughter, and they want to be caught with their kids. They have a Leahy family with their daughter. Now these are doctors of mental health that are associated with various natures of courts, fabricating audio and video, pretended conversations about legal cases and about police equipment that wasn't had with them or anybody else. So they couldn't even, they didn't even ask me about such. I never had a conversation at all with the younger Brendan Leahy. With the older Brendan Leahy, I had one word of conversation with him, and then he went away, and I didn't get to, But he's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated before that, and confirmed that in such ways. He's involved with predicate acts with a Dillon family, and with people with Hartford Hospital, with women in their family, and them sharing that name. At least two of them, Brendan Leahy. They have men and women that work with Hartford Hospital and other that now these are people also with prosecutors personally, criminally involved with them. There are a whole bunch of. This is an affidavit. Anyone who wants, the other people that agreed to give affidavits and people gave them in the past. They've been attaching little kids. It's way worse than principal child offender, what he went to prison for. And the courts and the only three branches of government, and the prisons and all the people tied to them private. It's recorded how they are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finding active progressive lies. Even their neighbors, even where they have remote uses of investigators. How a whole bunch of other countries keep this, the outcome /S is also recorded. So there's an officer, Jerry Miller, who is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also involved with various natures of police forms and gangs that occur family that he recorded, confessed, and demonstrated and confirmed the Kerr family is involved with them. Also with all along 2 Route Highway. I never saw them on that location. They brought up locations like there's a Lowe's there now. It used to be people from Central Connecticut State University have something to do with that with the plazas that are the strip malls. Also on the corner of Southstein and 2 Route Highway. There's a Dominic Abate, and there's a bait florist. I don't know those people. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with identity thefts and frauds with investigators associated with that location with other countries. As the ones that interbranch are with a whole bunch of other countries involved with predicate acts and predicate acts methods. But you have to have mandated law followed for this. So the people that have been in charge of determining who's following the law, who's committing crimes and not, they've been setting people up since founding. So of course they have people going, and they say, oh wait, I can't legislate. Because they don't understand, a whole bunch of things would have been prevented. And that there are programs with this that are also with Wethersfield Avenue and Franklin Avenue. But there are Wethersfield Avenue where it turns into the Southstein Highway. Anywhere where there are entrances to highways. But there are apartments and stuff on Wethersfield Avenue, Franklin Avenue, Broad Street, Main Street, that are involved with the same family members of the 3 branches of government, preventing mandated law. They've been fabricating audio and video and attaching me and others to fake words with WFSB. And their roles exploiting that, and with Fox Connecticut News and WTNH. They also confirmed that way, recorded that way, demonstrated that way. Their roles with predicate acts on and off the Wethersfield, Millwoods Park, on their roles with fire departments. Now there are some. We'll examine the way people ask questions. Like there was a woman. who asked on my machine a message. I think I saved it. I want to show it. All she said, though, do you agree? Do you care about the fire department? Do you think fire people are important? See, people are trying to establish truths outside of courts. Now, these are wire crimes, and if she has anything associations, it rolls unknowingly anyway with the fire departments and with their family members. Like one next to Trinity College. There's a guy there that they maybe took a picture of. They said they made confession about that years ago when I was in high school in Hartford, Connecticut. There's a fire department. Because this is also an Iowa family associated with those people, with Wethersfield Fire Department and a former Mayor Gold and other mayors and their neighbors. And the one that replaces the principal child offender campus, her neighbor years ago, was involved with people that set up instances where they filmed and spoke collusions like I know them. There were a whole bunch of ways that there's no way for anyone to respond verbally, or they'll get exploited more by the people influencing instances between and with and as the value of each age's treatments. So they're valuing blamed on other causes, the insidious actual causes. And no matter what they were bound by other causes, but by a method clear as day, for remote use, effective uses of the people who attacked the Capitol, so they could keep these fake sides. Because the political parties fighting with each other and then calling that politics, they're simultaneously pretending not to realize their roles with evidence racketeering, all the other natures of things that are used to keep all locations, areas, and states motivated to each members of each age of fact-keeping nature needed to hide the same sequence shifts, illusions, pretending not to realize the same finite active progressive lies, and offensively. See, this was sophistication here since before anyone was born. This is a method that had been sustained against Native Americans A through Z. It had already been sustained against that simultaneously, distinctly from colonists A through Z. Simultaneously, sickly distinctly. Everyone was missing how non-distinctly. Everyone was the victim of a breaching method, a predicate acts delivery system method, if you will. So, dear Brian Stelter and CNN, please follow mandated law. These are the judges and the courts, and there's all kinds of medical racketeering, foreign and domestic. There are a whole bunch of names, but I didn't bring them up, and those people will tell you that. The same people are pretending other. But you have to understand where and how the foreign and domestic already had remote uses of our judges and their family members and their methods of pretending other. In other words, by pretending to be vetting people honestly or whatever, or vetting information when bad things happen. Bad things are happening specifically so they keep the through the overt criminal enterprises, so they could keep them fake sides, and all the members of it individually grouped together speaking that, because they have recorded uses of them remotely, where they are on and off campuses, roles with predicate acts with the databases, with the narratives tied to that, the illusions, sequence shifts, finite active progressive lies, identity thefts and frauds roles clear as day, is night. And night are about to clear, about which is identity. And identity is identity of value / value progression, which is a relationship to the positive and negative simultaneously. Where and how negative is we're being shown where and how identity. It's a simultaneous relationship to itself. That native pure though, not engineered. That not moderated through, everything over here where there was exceptions and exception. There are exceptions and exception nature set up specifically to keep this system's value slash values progression words ties to our syntax, like words like values. We need to use it for this native system. We like sequence. We have to use the value of sequence true. They need to have people debating such overall but prevented mandated law from demonstration of those prevented uses of methods as subjects. So we have fake sides of the political branch in collusion because we have remote uses of the agencies. We have remote uses of the judicial branch. It's the same way they are involved with witch trials. Even if they made, especially if they made it up. It's criminal incompetence. There's a witch trials place right around the corner from where George Washington had to come to meet with the French general, thank God, to secure the help to further the James Madison plan for the Constitution on a bridge someday. We would have free speech. In that theater overcome where the branch of government need to hide lie progressions when they go to courts, they're fake each day. They have to hide that, they have to self-value the places already having been needing to hide themselves and their family members and their neighbors from their roles with instances. I don't know Savi Bajerio. He stole a speaker box. Now, whether they told him to or not, it was way worse what the judges and prosecutors were involved with him. I didn't have a class with him. He's an identity. I never saw him around on campus at all, ever. Now he's involved with the principal. He's one of the people involved with the principal child defenders campus. Then I say that they say, "Oh, why you used to make allegations against me?" I'll never even see him to be able to say that. I'm talking online because he's involved with two Mendez police and with judges retired and standing, prosecutors retired and standing with the principal child sex offenders campus. These are people that use their kids. There's the doctors that faked conversations with me. They have their patients, other patients of theirs, and their colleagues involved with them, with drugs and medicine crimes, and with untimely deaths connected. The same people connected with that on my street are ones that were tying the rolls with untimely death on Trinity College. The same ones that are rolls with predicate acts against me with Joshua Stryker. I also never had a conversation with. He's also involved with, men and women of the intelligence community that were involved with federal criminals leading up to before they got caught, and then after. See, with the people that are criminally foreign influence a whole bunch of ways with predicate acts, with a whole bunch of different countries, with sexual circles and things interbranch, because they're how they were child abused. They're exploiting that where everyone wants to stay positive, temporary / lasting positive, also positive unto itself. So they want to blame. They want to control what we can control. And these are people using words like control to maintain, not just for their kids. They use their kids to hide their own life progressions so they can pretend passions and emotions. They're lying about the behavior of other people on a mass scale. So when it's easy to say, oh, that person is not being calm. And that's why you have to understand how they're controlling words. They're covering, the courts were criminally foreign influence every time they had a case. The judicial, each branch of government, the political branch of government, from mayors all the way up and down, criminally foreign influence, delusions raw every time they had a fact treatment. They're victims of a theater that is a method you'll examine. That's why they don't have anyone allowed to demonstrate all the ways it's exploited, how we don't have standardized education. Where and how they use the phrase standardized education specifically so they can pretend other anyway. That's not standardized education, and it's delusion rot, so it's not education. So we need to have sequence true, and we have to have this with the World Trade Center in Washington, D.C. tied to the six sequence nature, syntax natures of people of identity law on a mass scale with jobs. They can't defend themselves. But where they have logic, uses of their title as evidence, where it means not what they think it means. In other words, follow mandated law, please, CNN. I've asked you many times. You guys have been sequence shifting, preventing mandated law with the courts that have been fabricating audio and video transcripts in their databases, with the police forms and private ones that have been stacking fabricated audio and video transcripts and narratives of their witnesses into databases, which are fake witnesses, which will tell you, and especially regarding the ones who are pretending other. So that's why they're forging and switching names. So there is a lawyer, Robert Cheverry, a lawyer, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, down the street that goes by near in view of the state capitol, where the buildings of downtown Hartford are, with the people that are involved. There's a John Maiano, also with prosecutors, dozens of people from New Britain Superior Court and from Hartford courts, and their family members recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a whole bunch of people with him leading up to and since the World Trade Center attack, with sequence shifts, identity thefts and frauds, and crimes with kids. He recorded, confessed, and demonstrated it has something to do with his roles with intelligence community, uses of people with a former Hagenbart, a Coach Hagenbart, and people associated with a Joshua Julian, and people with the wrestling community, and with places on the South Dean Highway where the Wethersfield Police Department is now, where it used to be. People involved with falsified police reports, identity thefts and frauds, also in that context, such as so also much worse. So they are preventing mandated law. Each of the so they are increasingly self-valuing how CNN and how you guys are increasingly valuing how CNN and how Fox News are different. In other words, as fake sides, as good cop, bad cop, differentially, where both are in collusion against their founders and against each person, need to pretend other. So fighting uses of premises treatments, uses of databases information, and of, quote, intelligence community, unquote, quoting your people, CNN. Then you guys pretend it's personal. It's not personal. I'm asking you to follow mandated law. I'm not making a theory. The courts have been forging names and switching names. I and others will give you affidavits. You want an affidavit? You tell me who denies this. They've been forging names, switching names into branch, switching sequences. They've been exploiting it. The same ones, they did this to force sustained abuses of the kids with the principal sex offenders campus. The same ones that are doing it now. They are recorded uses of the pandemic crises to cover up their roles with the thick medical racketeering, natures of it, uses of it exploited from those locations. Same way they're exploiting the courts and the police forms, kept needing to hide life progressions, self-valuing how they have needs to have investigators about sick things, not by accident. That's to keep them furthering what keeps them remotely incapable of dealing with finite true, with sequence true, with active true, integrity. Fact treatment's proper, truth treatment's proper, positive treatment's proper, negative treatment's proper, identity treatment's proper. It is clear as day there is an identity theft / fraud method leveraged against all locations, let alone those most forsaken. It just becomes easier to discern. Thank God. Negative nature has an identity of negative value, nature, progression, relationship to itself. It demonstrates to anybody a part of a system that would entertain things like slavery. It demonstrates it. negative value nature progression. We didn't invent how things work, how we are individual grouped and together, grouped areas, ages, invisible but still discernible. We are an identity of value/value progression, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously as the earth. We have to care about ourselves more than the earth, but we have to care about the earth if we want to care about ourselves. We have to care about the nature, its identity of volume as value, as nature/nature as value simultaneously. Those are two different sequences of the same identity. The same identity is right to left, distinctly and non-distinctly from how it is left to right. And as an identity of volume, as value, as an identity that is greater than infinity and is more finite than three identities of zero, where and how it began to and increasingly makes more and more of the identity of forever, of the identity/S of forever nature. Only the extent of it is debatable. Also proofs of this is that and how people debating it are with physical delusions and with criminally foreign influence premises treatment, sequence treatments, and pretending other people are. And then they're just making allegations, pretending they don't understand people. So it is important to stay focused on the sequence shifts, because these are also in the wire crime acts, Wethersfield town offices. These are people involved with elections locations, with identity thefts and frauds. Former Director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in his defendant capacities. Former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence the Corrupt Organization Act, RICO. These are also people recorded with houses associated and with people associated with them, with the transition from ACA to RICO. Same people involved with the child abuses as people were involved with the leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack, and leading up to it, which is also Washington, D.C., leading up to it in cases there. They had timed roles with insidiousness, interstates. The same people, intercampuses involved with predicate acts, with the illusions and the narratives, tied to the interbranch forging and switching names. They use their locations to pretend to be punishing people, and to pretend to be a better alternative than the sick. Only extending uses of jails and things as they have it because they're criminally foreign influenced. Uses of them already, self-valued. So we have to deal with the physical delusions of the branches of government originally still where and how they were involved with identity thefts and frauds and evidence racketeering simultaneously. We have to deal with that simultaneously. We have to deal with subjects simultaneously when we're dealing with correlation/discorrelation. So we can't afford people offensively pretending to be legitimately trying to go about subjects treatments and let people opine on this. Fake sides of correlation nature. That is breaching method employed. There is worse than elections, locations, roles with the World Trade Center attack. Investigators are also with Hartford Hospital, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the people intercities, with Wethersfield interbranch, intermilitary. I don't know if the Wethersfield. So let's get cracking. I need a response for the school because the schools also use a crime method of attaching people if they get caught by a family member online with things, they want themselves to get caught too, so they can use these methods where and how already the branches of government individually grouped and together. They already had to cover up with the crime methods they used. They also had to hide their actual recorded natures with cases that were brought before them, specifically to keep that the outcome/S. This is leading up to the World Trade Center attack, and since it, there are predicate acts and predicate acts methods that were a subject/S. Now these are people that are pretending, these are people involved with the foreign and domestic and collusion that pretend others make theories. They pretend things that have to be proven, and they pretend things that are proven. They pretend they thought things were proven that weren't. They pretend things that were proven they didn't know. They're still in their inclusion with passions and emotions. Same people lying about other people's behavior, which is also recorded. There's the interstates worse than internations. Our own against our own, their own against their own. They lie about our behavior. They lie about their passions and emotions, and they lock themselves, needing to hide from that. Needed to value the prisons, all the people tied to them, involved identity theft, fraud, fabricating audio and video with them, replacing what is actually recorded with fabricated audio and video transcripts. So follow mandated law, because this is worse than war crime. There's no theory here.